All righty. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel, everybody. We'll get going here in just a few moments. I didn't realize my equipment wasn't good to go. All right, there we go. Got some of these cords tangled up here. Just get rid of that. All right, so today we will be discussing the Delphi case. It's a double homicide out of Delphi, Indiana, involving two young teens, a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old, Abby and Libby. Most of you are very familiar with this case. I think today's live stream was sparked by a conversation we had yesterday about the Long Island serial killer fiasco and the corruption that might be involved surrounding that case. Definitely seeing some things over there that I thought were only things thought up in conspiracy land, but the things that I'm seeing that are happening with the corruption and the cover up from very high places, going beyond the police chief into the politicians and things like that. I mean, it really brings these crazy conspiracy theories. And I love a great conspiracy theory. I mean, I love the way it just kind of makes your mind work, where you try to follow each piece until it leads you to that final destination, but then you let your own personal stuff get in the way. You start making truths that aren't there. You allow yourself to be convinced. What's up, GP? Hey, thanks for dropping that update on Garrett Kurtz. Looks like he's going to trial. Do you have a date on that? Because I know as a special prosecutor, so a lot of that information was hidden. Garrett Kurtz is basically turning out to be potentially like a serial killer. I mean, what is it, 3 or more, right? And he has an MO. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he has more victims. And at this point, through this trial, if he gets convicted, he has no reason to withhold that information. What's up, CJK? 517 Kells. Rescue all the dogs, not just some of them. My guy Derek, what's up? Good to see Jill Moser. I'm doing much better today. Thank you, Jill. No coffee, though. We're going to keep things nice and chill. Thank you, Kevin. I am. What's up, Pam? Katie? Oh, I ain't going outside. It's all humid here. We're getting hit by our El Nino. That's Spanish for the Nino. What's up, Patricia? GP says, absolutely. I believe he's killed more than just Nicole and Ray. I believe he killed his best friend also. See, I've heard a little bit about that. It'd be interesting if you could shoot me some information or provide point us in the right direction about that. You believe he killed his best friend? Yeah, because I guarantee there's others. There's a lot of unsolved crime out there. He will be going to trial for the murder of Rey Haynes, who I believe he may have even catfished on a gay dating website, and then basically murdered him, and him and his friends hung out and partied at his house. Most likely Ashley Garth, the usual. Yeah, and we're talking about the same guy, right, who had just started a job at Indiana Packers, right up the street from the Monon High Bridge, had extensive knowledge of the area, great friends with the property owner that the girls' bodies were located, and even said he was so high that day he doesn't remember. All he knows is that he was begging his grandmother to take him to work so he doesn't get fired. And on top of that, he's basically a serial killer. Good to see you, D. Heather Marie. What's going on, guys? True Crime Housewife and the Frank Meister. All right, I'm going to holler at her. I'm going to say, yo, what's up with this? Yeah, she's very helpful too. If you ask for her help, you're going to get it piled on to the sky. Problem is, a lot of people don't ask. You'd be surprised if you just asked. And we're polite. Melissa Balboa, good morning. And Garrett Kurt's mom thought bridge guy looked like him. I don't think he's the bridge guy. I definitely don't think he's the bridge guy. But I think when his mom was saying, well, it could be him, I think what she meant was he could be the killer. From his own mouth, he said he was so high, he can't tell you what he did that day. And when you think about what Robert Ives says about the crime scene, he's like, it's just really strange. It's really odd. You know, we couldn't really figure out a motive here. Okay. Well, that sounds like a motive of somebody who's so high, they don't even know what the hell they were doing. What's up, Mark Collins? Cindy Lean, how are you? Welcome. Yeah, she did great with the Nicole and Ray stuff. Followed her lead on that stuff. Yeah, let's pull up some I got some stuff here on Ray and Nicole. That way, because I don't know if everybody knows who Garrett Kurtz is, you know.
Connection to West Lafayette native Nicole Bowen's arrested in connection to West Lafayette native Nicole Bowen's homicide has been sentenced. Garrett Kurtz will spend 55 years behind bars for his crime.
Bowen was murdered in March of 2019. Court documents say Kurtz strangled Bowen to death and left her in a storage shed. News 18's Anna Darling was in the Newman County courthouse today as Kurtz received his sentence.
It was an emotional day for Nicole Bowen's family as they finally got the chance to address the main suspect in her murder case. Now, the prosecution and the defense agreed upon a 55-year sentence for Garrett Kurtz as part of his guilty plea agreement. And while the family understands the legal process of the agreement, deep down, they feel it's not enough. Kurtz kept his eyes on the defense table for much of their testimony. Bowen's family brought pictures to display in the courtroom and had a slideshow of photos playing the entire time. Bowen's aunt spoke first for the family. She remembered her niece as someone who was goofy, smiling, and singing all the time. She said she was a wonderful mother to her two young boys. Nicole's mother, Cheryl Samuels, remembered the pain of having to tell Nicole's sons about the death of their mother. She said Kurtz is a, quote, sick, troubled, and cowardly person. Both women say they do not forgive Kurtz and wished that his punishment was more harsh. Kurtz did not give a statement to the court, and his defense attorney said in a brief statement that this case is an example of the negative effects substance abuse can have on a community. Find a full account of what happened today in court later tonight on our website.
CJK says, Garrett Kurtz is a crazy guy, capable of most anything evil, but I don't see him involved in the Delphi murders. In my opinion, unless it's meth related, then Alan wouldn't be involved at all. Why wouldn't Alan be involved? Is meth use above him? Why can't they both be high on meth together? So that's Nicole. That's Ashley Garth. Basically, Garrett's Kurt's good excuse for what he does. She made me do it. Yeah, and it was this image here where I was like, it's possible. And then now he's getting ready to go to trial. I don't know what date it is. I think that information was just released. This is Rey Haynes.
Rey Haynes' family is searching for justice 2 years after his death. He was found dead in his Reynolds home in March 2019. News 18 sat down with the family and worked to get answers on the investigation from the White County prosecutor.
He cared about everybody.
Rey Haynes' family remember him as a loving man.
Very caring, compassionate man.
Oh, that's Mel back there, by the way. You see her?
And that nursing had to have been his calling because he cared about people.
He was happy-go-lucky. I mean, just a bubble of energy.
Rey died at his Reynolds home on March 13th, 2019. Police found his body 4 days later. His death was ruled a homicide. 2 years later, there are more questions than answers surrounding the circumstances of Rey's death. Dottie Haynes is Rey's mother.
How he met them, I don't know. How much...
I think, isn't the information now that he was catfished? He was on like dating apps online, and I don't know if it was Kurtz himself, but I think, isn't that the consensus at this point? That they kind of connected, and then they catfished him and then murdered him and robbed him and basically used his home.
Communication he had with them, I don't know.
Rey was killed 15 days before Nicole Bowen died at the hands of Garrett Kurtz in Newton County. Haynes' family says they have been told that Kurtz confessed to killing Rey, but no charges have been filed.
It's heartbreaking because Rey's life matters. It's not somebody that was like, yeah, well, you know, he was accidentally killed, and so we'll just kind of forget about it. No.
Rey's family believes Kurtz targeted Rey through an online dating app, but Rey's phone was never found.
Rey was a gay man, and he wanted that white picket fence with his husband. He wanted all of those things.
I talked with White County prosecutor Robert Guy over the phone. He told me the investigation is ongoing, but they need more evidence to bring formal charges against Kurtz.
We know that he confessed to Rey's murder. And why can Miss Dottie not get the justice and feel the justice?
Cheryl Samuels is Nicole Bowen's mother. As soon as she found out Nicole might have been involved in Rey's death, she reached out to Rey's family. The two grieving mothers now support each other in a way that no one else can.
We know how each other feels. There's a lot of people that haven't lost their child, and they don't really know what it feels like.
The Haynes family is now turning to the public for help.
Any conversation that you might have had, even with Rey, that would have told you some of the things that was going on in his life at that time. All of this could be so important.
Anna Darling, News 18.
Yeah, same MO and everything. So even if, honestly, even if Garrett Kurtz didn't participate in the Delphi murders, if he's amongst these this caliber of a person like a Richard Allen or this underbelly, if you want to call it that, certain people might divulge information to Garrett Kurtz knowing that he's a killer. Like, they would have no issue talking in front of him, right? Telling the entire story, knowing they know his entire story. What are you going to do? Go tell on me? I'll just tell on you. You know, it's mutual. I want to give a shout out to Mike Essery, Slay the Rings, GP, and Miss Thang. Good to see you guys. Cynthia. Who'd I miss? Beach Fairy. Jamie Hicks. And Mama Styles. Welcome, everybody. So those are the cases currently related to Garrett Kurtz. But that's not really the topic of today. Today, I want to talk about this police corruption. I want to get an idea for those of you who actually believe that Richard Allen could be being set up through some kind of conspiracy and unknown reason to murder these girls. Just tell me why you think that in the chat, if you could. I'm really curious. Yeah, great point. A known serial killer having connections to the land two people were killed on is one of the wilder coincidences in this case. Yeah, who's to say he wasn't there? Who's to say he's not the guy already down the hill or already over there? Who's to say it wasn't his plan? He's like, all right, this is what we need to do. You know, we need to do this and we need to do that. Yeah, it's a lot of death for that small area. I just don't understand what was going on with Garrett Kurtz. Like, oh, I'm just going to start killing people. That's no big deal. Oh, she's bothering you? Okay, I'll handle it. Like, how do you get to that point? Are you just completely so high that it's like it's not even, you're just like this high, like a zombie. Methed out zombie. GP says Allen probably helped with the drug. What do you mean, like the manufacturing part? CJK says, I don't see him involved in the speculated meth operation and ring. Could be wrong. I see Allen as being a sexual deviant, like more of a private type. Yeah, I get those vibes too. But just to see him interact in that pool hall just kind of really shows me I don't know anything about his day-to-day and who he was as a person. You know, for all we know, like, you don't have to leave your home, right? All the meth heads can come to your house. Maybe that's how he stayed under the radar. He didn't really go anywhere. They all came to him. Who's that, Ashley? She was being all cocky, huh? And then she cried like a baby. Yep. Rest in peace, Ray and Nicole. Oh, there's the date. January 25th, 2024, final pretrial. This is for Garrett Kurtz. And jury trial is set for February 27th through the 30th, 2024. That's great. Yeah, they finally mentioned it in that report because I was like, I could have swore it had something to do with the Grinder app. Thank you, Beach. Good morning, Mama. Mama Styles. GP says, I got a question for you. Could it be a possibility that maybe Richard Allen, was lured there also? No, it's not possible. I don't think that that's possible. Makes for a great story. Like who lured him there? Garrett Kurtz and his catfish. He was on Grinder too. I think he would have said something to Dan Doolin. It's like, it's really strange. I was supposed to meet this girl there, but I thought you were married. I got catfished. I mean, yeah, I guess it's possible, but to me, that's something that's something that Richard Allen would like be screaming from the rooftops. Like, yeah, that's me on the bridge. I'm being set up. I got lured out there. Whoever lured me out there is responsible for this. Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Not with what we know. I don't see Richard Allen keeping that to himself. At this point, he's not gonna. What's he afraid of? What his wife thinks? She already thinks he's a killer, a cheater. Oh, he said he was on all kinds of stuff: meth, spice. And the thing is you can walk from Ron Logan's property, and you can take that bridge, and that's the way you would go to get to Packers. So if he was begging his grandmother, like, hey, I got to get to Packers, maybe Ron Logan picked him up. Maybe somebody dropped him off at Ron Logan's. He's like, all you got to do is drop me off at Ron Logan's. I'll walk from there. Not saying that's what happened. I just remember him telling Open Secrets it was very important, and he was begging everybody, you got to get me to work. You got to get me to work. And they were like, nope, I'm not taking you anywhere. You're still high. So he was still high from the day before. True crime and other stuff. What's up? Hey, Grunge. Richard Allen could have gotten the information about the girls, but I don't know if he was lured. Someone might have helped him find a target. Like a thrill kill? I do think Allen was highly sneaky and covert in his dirty thoughts and actions. Yeah, I think he was smart enough to know how to cover his trails. Like, that's the part he was good at. Like hiding who he was, in my opinion. If what we're hearing about the accusations is true. Typical serial killer type, really. Little family, little CVS job over here. Quiet, you're not out yelling in the streets, drinking out in the streets with your buddies. You're just quiet as kept. But when nobody's looking, here comes out the devices and, basically the monster just starts roaming around. Or maybe even alcohol is a trigger. Yeah, there's some people that'll justify doing it. Oh, I was doing it for a good reason. No. It's like it's kind of scandalous. I don't know if that's the right word. Joey Lowell, what's up? I think the cops arrested Richard Allen thinking he would tell who else was involved, but he did not talk. And maybe it's because he was told, you talk and your family dies. See, now that I can agree with. I think if there is corruption, that would just be the easiest way to handle it. Like, yeah, we set you up. Say something and watch what happens. If you care about your family, you'll keep your mouth shut. And then people will say, well, that's a damn conspiracy. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have any proof of it. And I don't believe that, but I think that that's how it would go down. And we now know that it is possible by watching what's happening with the Long Island serial killer case. James Burke was put into power shortly after Shannon Gilbert, the Shannon Gilbert incident, by some powerful politicians. And he derailed the investigation and would not allow the FBI to come back to the case. And then sure enough, he was caught. Somebody stole a duffel bag out of his police-issued vehicle, probably thinking there's guns and stuff in there, something he can sell. But instead, he found a gun belt, but he found porn, I think some sex toys, and a bottle of Viagra with the police chief's name on the prescription. Not only that, come to find out, a sex worker came forward and said, hey, the police chief who's in charge of this investigation, I slept with him 4 months before Shannon Gilbert went missing at the same area, the same exact location where she went missing. This sex worker is partying with the head of the investigation. You want to talk about corruption and conspiracy? That just proves that it's possible. So that's the part I don't like. That's the whole point of today's live stream. To me, it does seem like it's more possible now than it was before. But I don't see any evidence. In the Long Island serial killer case, there's plenty of information to go over. But why say Richard Allen was set up? There's absolutely no information. It just makes for a good story when you play it in your mind. Oh, wow. It's like a good novel, Oh, yeah. Oh, Mike Patty. Oh, yeah. Dan Doolin. They're all in on it together. But instead of throwing people that Libby really cared about, like Mike Patty, instead of throwing his name and dragging him under the mud, which she would definitely not appreciate, why don't you just go read a romance novel instead of writing one for YouTube? Well, you would have to think anytime there's an adult male and a young victim, especially a female, it's about power. Unless, and then of course there's one-offs, like, oh, maybe they witnessed something. Yeah, that too, Cindy. Agree, Sleuth. We would have heard that I think it's just something that we would know about. To me, that would have been something Richard Allen said when he saw himself on the bridge, because we know he's the bridge guy. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Peruvian 69, what's up? Can't remember. Was Garrett Kurtz investigated by the FBI? I believe so. If not the FBI, state police. I think he mentions that in an interview with Open Secrets. They polygraphed him and everything. But I don't know if the FBI interviewed him separately. I'm not sure. Well, yeah, D. Ashley's, you're right, because you have to ask yourself, how did something like this go unsolved for so long? You know, to me, the first thing I always think about is corruption. Like, like what the hell? And it doesn't have to be a vast conspiracy. It could just be, let's say, you're a killer and your old roommate is the police chief, you know, and you know all his dirty secrets. He knows you're the killer, and there's your file right there in front of him with one solid piece of evidence just sitting right there. I mean, all you really would need to do is what? Nudge it into the trash? I'm just saying. Big Bird 420 says, Sleuth, in comparison to Lisk, his wife has already filed for divorce, but staying in the house. Richard Allen's wife sold the house and hasn't filed for divorce. Well, we know when it comes to Lisk, it's not like she filed for divorce because he's this serial killer. She did it to protect herself financially. So it wasn't a judgment on him. According to the attorney, you know, it was to protect herself financially. Now, when it comes to Richard Allen's wife, I'm not sure. She might know a lot more than we think. And it may be a story about that we've never heard before. What really happened? You know, was Richard Allen the guy down there with the sharp weapon, or was he the guy with the gun leading them down as a lone wolf down by the water? Because we know now, just by the things we know, that he's very secretive, maybe calculative. And this could have been a calculated murder. He's bringing him down to the water because he knows when he commits his crime, he can clean up there and hide the DNA. And maybe she knows something about that maybe these other people involved, maybe he confessed to her. Like, it was horrible. You know, I went down there. I shouldn't have been there. And then all of a sudden, so-and-so went crazy. He just killed them right in front of me. And then he said if I didn't help him move them, that he was going to kill me. So she's like, oh my gosh, you know, I can't, what? So now she has his sympathy, hence no divorce. Like, we're going to play this out. Or she really believes he's innocent, and when he confessed, maybe he really was just kind of like out of it. It takes professionals to answer a lot of those questions, you know? GP says, seems like Richard Allen was on a mission, and who put him on that mission? Yeah, and that's the part I can't get over. And we all know how I feel about that. We know my theory. We know what I think the motivation was. Hey, Stephanie. If they found child P on his devices, that tells us he's a pedophile and gives him motive to target young kids. They've hinted at that when they released the documents recently. They hinted at something along those lines.
Hello,
hey, Jill.
Sleuth.
How are you?
Well.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome to the channel. What's on your mind?
Lone wolf theory. Like, I go back and forth with it. And I want to say I said this on your channel, like, I don't know, we were up late bullshitting one night about how much, you know, the coincidence in the Long Island serial case with Shannon just kind of reminds me of Delphi a little bit. It's just like, you know, the whole Keegan Kline thing, like, it just baffles my mind how these situations can't, like, they have to be connected in my mind. But then you think about Shannon and it's just like, you know, how could it be that, you know, she literally dies next to a serial killer graveyard and it's not connected?
Yeah, and she's also a sex worker. It's
Exactly.
like the same MO.
And also on Craigslist.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if your friends are running the investigation and you're kind of hesitant, you're at this kill party and you're like, I don't think we should do this, guys. We're going to get caught. And then in walks the police chief. He's like, you're gonna get caught by who? By me?
I think they were having kill parties, and I think she got spooked, and then she decided like she wasn't sure if her driver was in on it or not. I mean, he possibly could be or could have been in on it.
I think she was. I think she's a highly intelligent person. I think she knew if she did what they wanted, which was run, they may have been hunting her. She's like, well, they're not going to hunt a lame duck. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, this duck's lame. What's the fun in this? So she just seems like she came right back to the house. Like, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you guys hunt me.
Years ago, back in like the early, I want to say it was 2012, 2013, a lot of like online sleuthers had discovered like things like Utopia Guide, where some of the girls, were reviewed and stuff like that. And the way these deviant assholes would talk about these girls, I mean, they talked about wanting to hunt them. They talked about the burlap sacks. They talked about using burner phones. I just think that, Rex just got excited and started killing them, and then they can't catch him because all their hands are dirty.
So what do you think as far, you mentioned the lone wolf. Are you saying, is that where you lean, the lone wolf? Or do you think that there was actually a group of people who were using catfish accounts and also were interested in prostitution and all that kind of stuff and just went and maybe hunted them?
I honestly go back and forth with it. I mean, when I heard Steve from True Crime Web and his description of how it could have been lone wolf, like I could totally see that as plausible. But
it's the most likely scenario, in my opinion.
Coincidental. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, maybe, Richard Allen was watching from afar, or maybe, who all knows who was connected to KK's damn Dropbox account. And that's what happens is all these sickos, they click up together and start watching weird shit. And then when somebody gets murdered, it's like, well, now all our hands are dirty, or you don't know if it's one of your homeboys. I mean, but that's where all that starts. Like, God.
Or you do know it's one of your homeboys, but you don't, you can't say anything.
Right.
Yeah. But what about the appearance of the crime being so premeditated?
See, that's why I go back to, it has to be a setup. I was one of the first people that thought it could have been like a catfishing situation. Like, I was one that was called an idiot by Gray Hughes.
Yep. Did you guys ever see the first video that I ever made on YouTube? It was about the Delphi murders. It was called Burner Phones.
Was it?
Yeah, it's still up.
Check that out.
Yeah, if you go look at my very first video ever, it's called Burner Phones, and it's about these guys that catfished Abby and Libby to the bridge and killed them. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, the editing's not very good, but yeah, I mean, most likely it is a lone wolf, and a lot of the other stuff could just be coincidence. They showed up around the same time, and then because they proved in the Lost documentary that a lot of people were kind of trying to target Libby, right? Like she had no idea that there was this darkness that was peering down into her social media. She's just having a great time. I'm communicating, I'm outspoken I want to date, I want to meet people. And then she's not realizing that, what was it, like Blaze or something like that? There was another old man that was communicating with her and her friends.
I want to say they call him, there was a girl that was murdered from like somebody she met from social media. God, I can't remember this girl's name, but I remember her body like went viral because, the guy had killed her and put it on social media or whatnot. And
he like took a picture like of her in the background. I remember that story.
She would call them orbiters, like when you're online and you just kind of get these orbit of dudes that just
that's how I was picturing it. It was like this glow of light, kind of like when you're approaching a city like Las Vegas from a distance, and then just like this weird darkness peering from above down at it,
I feel like you got some fights going on in your chat.
What's going on?
It looks like Greeno's in here.
Karina's not in here.
He's not in the chat. That True Crime Investigates is his channel.
Yeah, that's not him. That must be a fake account because I don't think I have that channel blocked.
So what is your theory? Do you go back and forth with Lone Wolf too, or?
Well, I think mathematically that makes the most sense, and everything else was a coincidence, and he was probably triggered by alcohol. The more and more I learn about alcohol and its relation to these serial murders, a lot of times that's what they do. They get kind of shit-faced, and then they let their monster out. So yeah, that's the most likely. But then again, when you think about it, if those things aren't coincidences, then yes, I guarantee that Kagan Klein is involved, and he knows exactly what happened out there. He knows why they were targeted. He knows who did it. He knows who the players are. And if those, like, for instance, Richard Allen showing up, hiding his vehicle. So it's not like he just went there to go hike, right? And then snapped. Right. So he's backing in, all suspicious. He's got his face covered. He's overdressed, most likely to protect himself from blood splatter. He's got it all mapped out. And the reason they went down the creek, in my opinion, is because that's where the creek is. That's where he's going to wash all that DNA and stuff out of there. And that's why the investigators found a lot of Libby's clothes and some of Abby's clothes in the water.
Yeah, I was listening to you yesterday. Was it when you were talking about how that one serial killer would kill them in water just for the purpose of getting rid of evidence? And I was like, well, that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, it's like if you're pre-planning, you're like, okay, now there's the whole DNA thing. What am I going to do about that? Oh, well, by the bridge, there's the creek. We'll go, force him over there. Like, this is like a psychopath thinking, right? He's not thinking, there's no emotion. He's just thinking, okay, it's like, how am I going to solve this little puzzle here? And there's no humanity involved.
So many people lack empathy these days. It's kind of scary.
Well, some people aren't born with it, like a psychopath.
Right.
I always use this example because I'm a married man, right? So let's say there's a married couple and one of them happens to be a psychopath and they have an issue in their marriage. One that's not a psychopath says, oh, this is going to be tough. I'm going to have to get a divorce lawyer. I'm going to have to go through all this whole process, yada, yada, yada. And then the psychopath goes, well, I could just kill her or I could just kill him. You know what I mean? They're like, and it's the same as getting an attorney. It's one of the options that's on the table is murder.
I almost feel like nowadays it's considered a character flaw, especially on YouTube, to have a little bit of empathy.
Well, it really is. And I mean, you don't want to be like an outrage junkie, in my opinion. I think it should come from the heart. And I think you should just be honest when you have it. Like, I was watching a YouTube video today where this guy got arrested by the police and he had swallowed all of his cocaine.
Oh, man.
And he was in handcuffs and they knew it. They're like, oh, man, you just swallowed all of that, dude. And they're like delaying it, right? And he's like, yeah, I messed up big time. I need you guys to call the ambulance. And he's like freaking out. He's kicking. He starts screaming. They won't call the ambulance. They're just kind of joking about it. Like, oh, how you feeling? You feeling a little strange? And he's like, no, man, seriously, like, I messed up. I admit it. This is what I did. I need you to call the ambulance. They didn't call. He starts screaming to the pedestrians that are the onlookers. He's like, I need one of you guys to call the ambulance. I'm about to die. And sure enough, he died.
Damn. I've seen an interrogation video yesterday because I like watching those. Sometimes they're very interesting. But this guy was shot in the eye. Like, he had a bullet in his brain, and cops interrogated this dude for like an hour because I guess some people broke in his house, shot his wife, shot him in the face, and he's telling them, like, I'm shot in my eye. And they didn't believe him at first. And they interrogated this dude for an entire hour until the fire department showed up, checked him out, and was like, oh my God, he's got some kind of like injury. And sure enough, he had a bullet in his brain.
That's what they were doing. They were holding him hostage with his life. Like, well, as soon as you tell us the truth and what we want to hear, then we'll go ahead and let you live.
That's so foul.
And what the story I was telling you, the messed up part was when he died, they had him in the hospital and the doctors and the police were talking. And they were like, oh, well, he died. Usually when they say they're going to die, they die. And yep, he died. And they just were talking so nonchalant about it.
I mean, he still has parents. He still, he could have had children. He could have had a wife. It's just sad.
Well, he knew he messed up. And he's like, man, I messed up and I'll face these charges. But if you get an ambulance here right now, you guys can make it all right and I'll live. But they didn't. They killed him.
That's terrible.
It was horrible to watch. I was like, what is going on in this world? I think we have somebody else calling in, but
with the police and with Burke, isn't that interesting?
Say that again.
What are your thoughts on the Burke situation for the Lisk case?
Yeah, I think he's involved in a cover-up.
I know there's a documentary out there somewhere. I just got to find it again where, there was a working girl that said that I think you were talking about it. The one where she had seen Burke right before all this happens.
Yeah, she said she slept with him.
There's also one where somebody brings up those creepy freaking dolls. Okay. Like, I don't know if you, I've been following the case a long time, but somebody put these dolls on the crosses where somebody had put for the, how people do memorials and stuff.
The timeout dolls. Yeah, I covered that. Let me see if I have, oh my God. Yeah, I might have the pictures of it here. Hold on. Yeah, here it is. Somebody keeps calling in by Keep It 100, but they don't have, it's not loading. So either you don't have a good enough signal or you, oh, okay, here we go. Hold on. Welcome.
How you doing? I'm glad you saw my face. A lot of people already know me.
How you doing?
They definitely know me. So, yes, I'm going to prove my point. That was definitely Greeno. I was in the group when he came in and portrayed and impersonated Cheyenne, who we found out was a witness. He has never...
Sorry about that, Jamie. We're not going to listen to that.
Yeah, it's not a drama channel.
Sorry about that, buddy. That's not what we're here for. But here's the dolls. And look at this one. The mouth is ripped out. What the hell is there a hole in the mouth for?
Found a doll in, Rex's house.
And these are like multiple.
And you guys, these are specific kind of dolls too. Like they're not just like, oh, cute, let's put a baby doll or a teddy bear here for the victims. These dolls are called timeout, like naughty dolls. And I want to say they were only like sold or made in a specific location, but I don't quote me on that one.
Can you see this? The image?
Yeah, I can.
This is the one they took out of his home. And look, he has it in a case.
Wow.
See, timeout doll in North American folk craft in the form of a toddler-sized doll that is intended to be posed against a wall. Hence the alternative name corner dolls. The dolls typically lack a face, as the doll's arms are posed to cover it. In addition to being used as home decor, timeout dolls are strongly associated with classic car shows. And that's how I'm familiar with them.
Car shows? Wow. I mean, like, why would they even sell that? That is so just weird.
It's like it's an old school thing. It was like decoration, I guess. I don't know. We don't do that kind of stuff over here in the South, I guess, the Southwest.
Yeah, I think Rex, he really liked to terrorize his victims' families, online sleuths. Like, he's a total troll, that Rex.
Yeah, and he gets off on it, you can tell. Like talking to people who are into true crime, who might be a potential victim, And I think that's what was going on with Shannon. I think they were kind of trying to torment her with the things that they were saying, and she kind of caught on.
Well, I think a lot of the girls in Long Island were starting to get nervous about that entire area because of the reviews these guys were leaving online, and then they don't know, they're using online handles, so you don't know who is who. And then, you read this shit and then you're at a party and then all of a sudden it starts going a little south. I mean, and Shannon probably had a strong intuition.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think she was picking up on all the cues, and I think she was drugged, and maybe she got lucky and her body didn't react the way that the rest of the victims did, and she was kind of coming out of it a little bit.
Well, we still don't know what she did with that 15 minutes when she left with Brewer. I mean, they could have went over to Hackett's house. He was a doctor prescribing drugs to the whole neighborhood or giving drugs to the neighborhood.
Yeah, what's going on with this Hackett character? I'm confused by that whole scenario. Who's Hackett?
Hackett is the doctor that I guess you would kind of say he's kind of like the town mayor of your neighborhood. The guy that knows everybody's business. He thinks he's a George Zimmerman,
Who is he though? Where does he live out there? Is he?
Yeah, he lives on.
How does he come in? Where does he come in?
Shannon was found behind his house. Okay, practically, he came in because when Shannon was still missing, Shannon's mom got a call from Hackett. Hackett claimed that he's seen Shannon that night, that he runs a home for wayward girls and all this shit, right? Well, when the police go and question him about it, he totally denies it until the phone records come out, and he sure enough did call this woman.
It's a cover-up.
But I think he drugged her or gave her some type of drug because, her and Brewer, they left for like 15 or 20 minutes. According to Pack, the nearest store would have been like at least an hour away, right? So to me, I'm thinking 15, 20 minutes. Maybe they went over to Hackett's house. It's, it's right there. It's on Oak Beach. And he was pretty much the unofficial doctor for everybody over there and had, I guess, drugs and.
Or he was already at the party. One lady called it a kill party. But that's going to be it for our time here, Jamie. So I got to let you go.
Okay,
sorry about that.
You're
welcome, but I want you to comment on this. We did have Greeno call in. Nothing against you, Greeno. I just don't want any back and forth. What's going on with all that stuff? I'm just not interested in all that. But Jamie, I really appreciate you for calling in and taking the time out of your day to hang out.
Right on. Peace and love to you all. And I hope you feel better, Sleuth.
I really do. I feel great today. I think if I stay away from caffeine until Friday and figure things out, we'll find out what's going on.
Right on. Well, I will see all you guys. You going live later or maybe tomorrow?
No, at 12 noon my time. That'll be what, 3 Eastern time. So
2 Central.
Yeah, 2 Central time on channel 2.
Word. All right.
Well,
everybody have a great day. I'm out.
Later, Jamie. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. We're going to hang out another 5 minutes in the chat. Oh, Jerry. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry I missed your super chats. I really appreciate that. Got a super chat from Jerry and a super chat from Shay Watson. It's bigger than we will ever know. Yeah, we'll never know, will we? That's the worst part of a conspiracy, I guess. They go out of their way to make sure of it. All right. I'm going to go back up here on the chat and see what we missed. Okay, I think that's where we left off. Sim Squatch. What's up, man? How you doing? I'm glad you caught us. GP says it seems like Richard Allen was on a mission. Yeah, we covered that. Yeah, that is exactly what Shay was saying. That's an awful thought. You know, some of these killers will just take it to the grave. I mean, with the Robert Hansen case out of Alaska, there's still 5 women who haven't been found. That's 5 families. All right, guys, if you can hit the thumbs up on the way out, and we're going to be hanging out on channel 2. So go make sure you find that link. I'll post it again in my community page, and we can hang out there. I'll show you what we'll be talking about. You guys ever heard of the whistleblower Eric Hecker? Yeah, we're going to be talking about this. All righty, guys. I appreciate everybody who donated and sponsored today's live stream. Jerry and Shay, you guys rock. Thanks for supporting the channel. Jamie Hicks for calling in, giving up some of her time to kick a little convo. Appreciate you. Mods, members, subscribers, thank you guys so much. And I'll see you a little bit later if you guys want to hang out at channel 2. Peace.